Hi, Maestro. How are you?
Hi, Karen. So good to see you.
It has been a very long time. I don't know if you remember the first time we met.
It's a long, long time. Yes. Can you
Yeah,
refresh my memory?
I certainly will. I was a young artist in Santa Fe Opera, and you were conducting Carmen.
It was Carmen. It was my debut with the Santa Fe Opera. It was in another century, I suppose.
Yes, it was. Yes,
It was a wonderful production of Frank Corsaro.
yes, the legendary.
And now I do remember. Yeah, great memories of Santa Fe. Always loved being in Santa Fe.
I know it. It was my. I think it was my first season, my first year. I was 20, maybe 21 years old.
I was just a few years older than you, not many actually.
I mean, we still look exactly
Yeah,
the same,
yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I was a student at Curtis Institute of Music, and my
Mhm.
first program, my first everything. And I was just like, oh God, I think I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Well, this is one of the joys of Santa Fe is the apprentice program. So for the people who don't know, there is a fantastic apprentice program, which is very selective. And a lot of people who were in that program had very good career after that. Actually, a lot of people who were not also, uh, you know, allowed in the program who didn't make it had a wonderful career after that too. But that tells you how selective it is. And the apprentice are also the chorus for the whole summer. So they have the chance to work with more established artists for the 4 or 5 productions of the whole summer. And it's a real treat for a conductor because you have wonderful soloists, really soloist souls who are not shaded, who have an incredible energy, and that's the best chorus possible.
Exactly. I mean, I think I've never sung that much ever in my career as a professional, every day singing. If you're not performing in the evening, you're rehearsing for the next show during the day and taking coachings. And
Right.
it's the best summer camp, boot camp / boot camp experience.
The festivals are like that. You don't have time to complain. You don't have time to get tired. You
Nope.
just go. You're on a roll. And I remember when I was doing Spoleto, it was, I mean, like, you know, I was the music director of Spoleto USA in Charleston, and we had approximately 165 events in 17 days.
Wow.
You don't have the time to complain. You don't have time to think. But after that, you are exhausted for 2 months. Dead.
Yes. You need a vacation after the
You,
summer, right?
you, you do.
Yes, yes. So, Marshall, talk to us. Well, where are you from? Where are you now, and where are you from?
So right now I'm in Europe. I'm actually in Italy. I am in near Naples, and meeting some colleagues. Um, I was born in Strasbourg, France, and I studied in Strasbourg at a conservatory, and I also studied then in Paris.
Mhm.
And my career brought me, all over Europe, but fairly quickly to the US.
Mhm.
And so my career developed both in the US and in Europe. And I came back now because of COVID. I came back to Europe.
Of
And
course.
couldn't stay in California or in Texas, and I said it was better probably to go back to Europe. Um, it seems that in the US, most events are canceled in
Yeah.
the fall because of the virus. Um, a little more things are happening in Europe, but
Mhm.
more shows going on.
Yes.
And I have actually recordings in Prague coming up in a few weeks, and we have some concerts that we will do, with social distance and so on.
Of course.
But this is a tough time. I mean, this is a tough time for all of us.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I lost a lot of work in the spring, of course. And you know, summer is always really tough anyway.
Mhm.
And then, you know, people started rescheduling things, and I was supposed to be in Carnegie in the fall, and like, you know, then it moved to the spring, and then they just canceled the whole thing. And it's just been such a trying uh time, you know, and also switching to virtual, you know, for many singers, which is was like a learning curve. And you know, but at the same time it's been amazing because you're using muscles that you had not ever used before. You know, you're when people are asking you for ideas and artistic things, it's a time to like maybe push something that you always wanted to do. Like I'm getting a chance to do La Voix Humaine, you know, virtually, and I would not have had the opportunity to do that before. So it's, you know.
Actually, a Voyman is the perfect piece to do virtually. You know, it's a one-woman show, and it's about connecting and talking to someone who is not there.
Yeah.
So that's still a very intimate conversation. So that's perfect. Yeah, the virus has forced us to. I mean, there is something very cruel in the sense that we were all looking for some downtime, some peace, some sabbatical, but here it is
Mm-hmm.
imposed to us.
Yes.
Um, and at the same time, we don't have control of that time, over that time, and we don't know when it's going to end.
Right.
So you can't really enjoy it.
No, yeah, it's hard.
And then you have to, you know, as an institution, but also as an artist, you have to do things that maybe you thought you were not going to have to do right away. I
Yeah.
mean, going digital is something all companies have been talking about for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, this is the only place to be. So it has accelerated that
Mm-hmm.
movement to the screen from the stage.
Yes. What does that mean for you as a conductor?
Oof. As a conductor, it doesn't mean much right now because all the experiences uh, of concert online
Mm,
are still very stiff because of technical reasons.
of course.
So you have the delay and so on. So the way it's done usually is that you have one line that you can have the conductor, then you have a pianist that might play one line, and then
Mm-hmm.
the other
Mm-mm. Oh, we got stuck. Come on, computer. Come on, internet. Yep. Oh, we got frozen. Frozen. There you go. Frozen. Come on, baby. You're frozen,
play
maestro.
one.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Maybe he'll come back. He will come back. There you go. Now I can't hear you. Mm-mm. I can't hear you, maestro.
I'm here. Let
Yeah,
me
yeah.
see if I can do, maybe it's on my hand. Let me see,
Mhm.
because you can edit, you know. So let me
Mhm.
see, let me see if I can reboot or stop something on the other hand, okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Mm-mm-mm.
Karen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see. I hope, I don't know. I had no problem so far. So
Mhm.
let's pick it up. Uh, where do you want to pick it up?
Where do we want to pick it up? We were talking about recording and conductors, like how it affects.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to do, recordings online right now with the distance, it's very difficult technically because you need to have a conductor who, if you want a conductor, who just beats the time. Then there is a pianist who might just play this, and then it's recorded, and then the next musician is going to hear that and play in the same moment, and then you add voices by voices. So there is not that magic communication between the various players in the same room
Mhm.
and the sense of resonance and space and time, which is what music making is about. So
Right.
right now in music making, all the experiences that have been made with distance digital concerts have been, kind of interesting, but that cannot be the future.
No.
It will happen. There will be some technology where all of a sudden probably it can feel like it's instant playing together, but that's not the case right now. So what we can do, for instance, is the rules are a little different when you have an audience or when you don't have an audience. So what
Mhm.
I'm going to do in Prague, we're going to do recordings because we really, we can still record certain repertoire with enough social distance. We don't have an audience, so the rules are a little different, a little easier. So that's what we have done with Prague. We put a lot of recordings. Now, as a music director,
Mhm.
that's different. You need to be present online. You need to take this as an opportunity to get ahead in getting more and more digital, moving, as we were saying, to the screen. And this will stay. I'm convinced once we are out of this virus nightmare episode, the digital, the online aspect of things will still be there. Uh,
Yes.
and let's hope it's meaningful. I mean, what it has done is that it has forced a lot of institutions to all of a sudden communicate in a different way, reach out to different people, and
Yes.
even listen to other people and have the feedback of these people. And that part is a very positive part, and I think it's going to go on.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think that we are catching up to other of the genres of
Right,
music, other art forms in a way that we need each other. We need to be connected to what the rest of, our community in a way is doing artistically. And it's kind of
right,
exciting, like bringing new directors, into opera and people who
right,
are doing the filming and all those things. It's very
right.
exciting, I think, in that way.
Right. But and maybe ultimately, creatively, we might have pieces that are written specifically
Mhm.
for the screen, specifically for digital audiences and digital performers, or something that is. But for that, you would need um, pieces and works that do things that you could do only on screen. And,
Yes.
and one of the beauty of the screen is that you can move from one scene to the other every 5 seconds if you want, every
Yes.
single shot if you want. That's
Mhm.
impossible on stage. So
Yes.
all of a sudden, you could write different stories. All
Mhm.
the story of opera writing and of music has been conditioned by technology. With the evolution of technology, the evolution of the works that were written and conceived from the libretto to the very music, it moved very, very much forward too and together. So if you have a piece where you have only candles on stage, you have a certain type of sets. If
Mhm.
your act is going to be, only lead by candle, you have one act and one place by act. You can only be in one space for an act. Then you move to other technologies, you move to other lighting, or you move to the screen. You could have different things, and that calls for a different music, a different connection with different audiences. And,
Absolutely.
And so I hope we're not there yet, but you see that there is something here that will happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as a music director, you said Prague Philharmonic.
Prague Philharmonic,
Yes,
yes.
I love that city. I've been twice. I love that. Oh, so beautiful, so much history. And the music director of Dallas, you get to dictate what gets presented, what stories are told, and how what goes into the planning. Because I think there's so many people don't understand. They just come to the theater, or artists, we just get an offer. How do you
So
feel about that?
there are so many parameters. And I think every culture is different. I would even say every city is different. What you do is Fort Worth is different than what you do in Dallas or in Houston or in Bucharest.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a programmer, you need to be very aware of this. That means knowing the tradition of those cultures and those cities, but also be ready to eventually move those. But in order to move them, you need to understand what people are potentially expecting, what they are resisting, and how to move this. You have the venues you have. That's a very important parameter. The type of orchestra, the amounts of rehearsal you have. We have a chance, for instance, so in Dallas to have a rather small house, 2,200 seats, compared to other US houses that can provide a certain type of experience, which is more intimate, such a type of scenery, and so on and so on. You need to know that when you program. At the same time, you also have financial parameters. I can have wonderful ideas of what would be the ideal season in Prague, but if I can pay for it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
If my audience is not going to come to it, and then maybe it's going to be 30% less in my box office, but then the people who are giving me money are also going to say, well, wait a minute, your house was not full, why should I give you extra money for this?
Mm-hmm.
So my job is, I think, in Prague as the main programmer, or in Dallas, where I have my seat at the table where we decide the programming together with David and with, of course, under the authority of Ian, the general director. We always have to take into account that aspect of things. What's going to be the response of the audience? What's going to be the response of the people who are our main sponsors? At the same time, these people trust us. So they also want us to take risks. Understanding that balance between pushing the envelope, risk-taking, and still balancing the budget, getting the trust of the community. Even if you push them a little, they know you push them for a good reason, and so they are going to follow you. But if you lose them, you have lost them.
Yes.
This is tough. So that's the kitchen from the point of view of our finances and main ID side. But then I might want to do the Frauenschatten. But if I don't have two dramatic soprano, one dramatic baritone, one dramatic tenor, and a grand harmonica, give me all the money on earth, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And so you need to know that. You need to know that maybe I have the right cast for this, so maybe I'm going to invest a lot in this, and I'm going to find ways to balance the season, otherwise the other way around. You can have, if you have 5 operas in your season, they cannot all be with a double chorus, for instance.
Right.
You never have time to rehearse. So these are a lot of things. In the end, it's also about, I'm dying to do that piece. I really always wanted to do that piece. I think this is an extraordinary piece. I believe in it. I have the soprano for it. I have an idea for it. What can we do around this so that thing makes sense and is justified too?
Mm-hmm.
So there is an element, there are a few elements, a lot of elements that are very hardcore, objective, material or conceptual elements that need to be put in a big equation.
Mm-hmm.
But there is also an element of risk-taking that is connected to just your love for and your passion for the art. And that balance also is very important to find. Because if you have only people who do this like computers, well, I have this, I have this, I have this, so I can do that, but don't have any personal, skin in the game and blood to lose,
Yes.
It's not going to be interesting.
Absolutely. That's at every level, right? That's at every level of what we do. Yeah. What are some of your passion pieces that you're like, if it, dream pieces, passion pieces, things that you've not,
Ah,
been able to present, but you'd love to?
yeah, this is. It, I used to have a list that was quite small,
Uh-huh.
and the more I learn repertoire, the more I explore repertoire, the bigger that list is.
Of
So
course.
that's very good. It's usually, of course, pieces I've not done myself yet. So I have, the Wagner repertoire, for instance. If you are the music director, then you do the Wagner repertoire yourself. Well, I've been a music director of Spoleto for many years, so I've done some Wagner, and same thing with Strauss, actually.
Yeah.
Some Strauss, but I still have a lot of them to do. So that's big on my list. I am exploring Verdi. For some reason, I've not done enough Verdi, so I've never done Otello, for instance. So that's
Yes.
on my list,
Hmm.
Falstaff. I wanted to do Falstaff
Yeah.
too, and it's big on my list. I am very excited, and we have not talked about this, but this is at the center of the question you're asking me, contemporary music too. I think it's fascinating
Oh,
to be part of a team that's putting together, a librettist, an idea concept, and a cast and a composer together.
mm-hmm.
There is nothing more exciting than this. And there you take a huge risk. And people forget, you have, for one Nozze di Figaro in the time of Mozart, you had 50 operas that nobody's talking about anymore. And so, but that kind of adventures are very exciting adventures.
I think we have a lot of the same taste. I
Okay.
love everything you said. I'm right on board with. I love the Strauss, the Faulkner. Hope I get the opportunity to do more of that. And then new works. I mean, I've gotten to tip my toe into that world, and I'm
What's your dream role that you have not sung yet?
the Marschallin
Oh,
and Ariadne are my two like I'd love to do. If I had my like wish, I'd love to sing Siglenda, although I don't have the voice to sing that in
right.
the bigger space, the big,
Do it
but
in concert, yeah.
yes, in concert. I mean, the text, the whole scene with the
Mm-hmm.
Siegmund. I mean, is to me is,
Mm-hmm.
it's so amazing. I'd love to do dialogues of the Carmelite Idouin. I'd love to do that, and Cassandra and Troyan. I'd love to
Right.
sing that
Mm-hmm.
someday, and then create new works. I created a Fire Shut Up in My Bones, that they premiered in St. Louis last summer. I did
Mm-hmm.
Billy last summer, which was amazing because Terrence Blanchard and I are very good friends now that we've worked together. I've done both of his operas, but to create a role that was specifically written for me, and to sing that beautiful libretto. It was the most beautiful libretto I'd ever
So you
read.
were getting the music piece by piece, or did you get the whole thing?
Oh no,
One.
he wrote it from the first note for me to the
Right.
end, from the beginning.
He would give you 10 pages by 10 pages. Yeah.
Yep. We
Uh,
literally did scene by scene, and we would go into the workshops, and he would write 4 scenes, and we just put it all together. It was amazing, and so it's like in my DNA now. It's a part of me, and
right.
something that I feel like I helped create, which is tremendous.
Great. Of course. Of course. I think there is nothing like that. When you do a contemporary piece, even if it's not the major success you would hope for, the
Right.
process in itself is fascinating. And when it's a success, it's even more
Yes.
more rewarding than anything, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. I agree. So, in this time of COVID, of course, and in this time of all the social movements, Black Lives Matter and, the women's movement. And I wonder what, how people really feel about all these changes. We talk about seat at the table, equity and diversity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right, of course, it's impossible not to talk about.
Hmm.
When you say people, it's very different from one person to the other,
Hmm.
and one component to the other. And I would say, um, talking about me,
Hmm.
um, as a privileged white in a music director position, um, my first job is to listen. My
Hmm.
first job is to try to understand what's going on,
Hmm.
what what is it that I'm not understanding about what's going on,
Hmm.
how it resonates with me, how it resonates with people around me, and how I am part of the problem and how I am part of the solution.
Hmm.
And I think just that epiphany is very important. So as I was discussing with a lot of my friends and colleagues, um, the up to now, it was possible to say, well, I'm not racist. I condemn racism. It's terrible. I've done my statement. Let's move on. That's not enough. We all know it is not enough. That means if you're not doing anything, now you know that you're part of the problem.
Hmm.
And that is new. That is very new. Up to now, you were part of the problem if you were resisting change in general, or if you were not acknowledging history,
Hmm.
or if you were, of course, having some of those crazy prejudice and racist thoughts. But now, if you're not doing anything to change something in our industry now, whatever it is, and there is a list of things you can specifically do, then you're part of the problem.
Yes.
And I think this is really something that is um, unanimous in the opera industry and in symphonic industry. Now that's really, so that's what those tragic events, George Floyd, but all the other ones,
Yes.
died in front of everybody. Of course, the fact it is seen is changing the dynamic there. The fact it was in the time of COVID is changing the dynamic there, but it's there. And you, I think we won't go back to before. So there has been a major change. Now, uh, you know, if we are going to the heart of the matter, um, I don't believe opera is racist. I
Hmm.
believe our industry has a racist past and probably structurally some racist mode of functioning
Hmm.
that is sometimes not aware of itself. So again, we go back to that awareness and what can we do to change? But I really think at its core, Western classical music has a very strong humanistic message,
Hmm.
very powerful and strong humanistic message. That doesn't mean every piece is rosy. Some pieces are very dark pieces. Some
Yes.
pieces might even express the dark side of humanity that is in all of us, murder, hate, and so on and so on.
Mm.
But as a whole, there is something profoundly reaching to the best of humanity expressed with the utmost nobility. And that means there is no room for any ounce of racism in that.
Yes.
I really believe so. But like all the good things, like the church, the devil is in the church. We know
Yes.
that.
They're sitting in the front row, honey.
You know,
Yes.
and I mean, racism is in our industry,
Yes.
has been, and again, the one that interests me is the one that I might be carrying without knowing it.
Mm,
You know,
exactly.
and so of course you don't want to be totally paralyzed, or you don't want, and this is where it's very difficult, you don't want to say things you don't believe just because you have to say them.
Right.
So
Yes.
that honesty um, uh, implies a conversation that might be a little tricky, a little uncomfortable, and you need to risk that,
Yes.
and you need to go there, you know.
I agree. I'm 100% into, we have to just have the conversations that many of us, as I mean, I'll speak to my own community as an African American, all of us have had with each other, all of us who have been able to do the thing. You know, we are the exceptional Black singer that has had the opportunities to do the things. You know, we have these conversations with each other, but now we have to have the conversations with the companies and with the music directors and with the people. You know, listen, I've had directed say, oh, her voice is this, her voice is that, we don't like her voice for this repertoire, her voice is too this for this repertoire, you know, or I'll only see her as in Prague and Best, or whatever that is. And it's like, though, that's racist to say that when I'm an accomplished singer, but you tell me I can't sing that because of the color of my voice or my skin or whatever that is. And sometimes people don't even know the bias, but we have to be able to address it, right?
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely, totally. And I think the Porgy and Bess example is a good one and a tricky one, in the sense that, as you know, Porgy was written to help the Black community.
Right.
It's carrying now so many prejudice of the time, which were not seen as prejudice, that it becomes the piece that is the alibi for the people who, in fact, are racist and want to appear like they are not racist. But
Right.
shift, and there is a level of nuance, you know, that is very difficult. And it's an amazing piece, but if it's the only piece you do to say, oh, you see, I'm doing my duty socially and politically there. No, you're not. You're not really doing the right thing. The question of colorblind casting is also a very tricky one. You know?
How do you feel about that? I'd love to hear your thoughts about
Now,
that.
here also there has been, I think, an evolution, and so obviously you can be an African American marshalling. I think there is, especially with the stage, you know, with the screen, maybe there has been a non-tolerance on those things. It became a little more tricky. On stage, I think nowadays we're at a point where it's absolutely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
If it can be part of the narrative in a contemporary staging,
Yes.
why not?
Why not?
And it doesn't have to be. It should not be what is making you being cast or not in that role. I think I'm very, very strong about this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the piece is about the struggle of the African American community or the Native Indian community, if that's the topic of the piece, then you cannot say you are colorblind either.
Yes.
And so there's been some situations that are very complex where, you know, out of very high principle, you have white privilege intellectual who says, "Oh, I'm colorblind there too." So although this is about a Mexican hero, you know, I want someone with another color. Whoa, wait a minute. You are diminishing the impact of what's happening here. So I think it's very tricky. And I don't, here again, I really do not have all the answers. There is a debate recently about auditioning for orchestras behind the screen. So auditioning behind the screen has been used in the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years, 30 years at least,
Mm-hmm.
as a way of guaranteeing that there is no prejudice against people of color. And now there is all the movements that say, well, actually, we need to go further than this, and we need to do some kind of affirmative action. So let's lift the screen.
Yeah,
And,
it's an
and
ever-changing, evolving.
yeah. And that is an interesting and tricky discussion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very tricky discussion. So, you know, we say we're going to have the uncomfortable discussions. As a European, for me, it took me a long time to intellectually absorb, because intuitively I always accepted it, but the notion of affirmative action was not obvious. Because for me, that was saying you are solving a problem at the end of a result that should be solved before that.
Okay.
True.
Yeah.
But it's going to take 50 years to solve that problem. So let's also solve it at the end. And so I think that's what is a very strong justification for an unquestionable justification for affirmative action. If you don't do that, discrimination is going to perpetuate itself again and again and again. So just do it. Do it smartly. Do it with judgment, and so on and so on and so on. I would say that when I took my position as music director in Spoleto, I was thinking, because the first auditions, we were not doing them behind the screen, actually. And so the Spoleto Festival is in Charleston, which was the port of entry of the slave trades in the US. I mean, a lot of the slave trade was not coming directly from the ocean, was coming from the islands, but a lot of also the main port of entry was Charleston.
Yes.
You cannot ignore this history if you are doing that festival. And so I said, well, you know, let's see what kind of African-American young artists are going to audition for the festival. I certainly didn't have to push anybody. I just had to allow the talent to come that had not been allowed to come before. And so all of a sudden, you know, I would have every year out of an orchestra of, I don't know what it was, 80,
Yes.
you know, 10 African Americans,
Yes.
just by the nature of their talent.
Yes.
So, but these are tricky questions, and I think we need to actively see how can we change. If we want a more diverse audience, we need to have a more diverse cast on stage. We need to have a more diverse orchestra in the pit. We need to have a more diverse board. That's obvious. And if that doesn't totally happen naturally, well, that means maybe you're doing something wrong. And then you need to question the way you're doing this. And you need to help things to move in that direction. And you need, where it's difficult is you need to do this in good faith. Not because someone told you you have to do it. You need to do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yes, yes, exactly. I mean, you feel that. I mean, so many companies got slaughtered on social media when they blacked out, you know, and people were frantically like, well, you know, well, what? Like, we did the thing. And it's like, yeah, but if you've never done the thing before and people see you doing the thing, it seems fake. It doesn't seem, you know, real. Or, you know, listen, my phone has been ringing off the hook for all kinds of opportunities and all kinds of panels and all kinds of things. And, you know, and it's been amazing in one stance, but in another stance, it's like, you know, well, I've been here for 18 years. And then all of a sudden, you know, companies that never reached out are reaching out. And so, you know, it's difficult because I love and a passion for this art form. I've given my life to do this thing, you know, but at the same time, so I feel a little sometimes upset, but there's another part of me that like, this is my job as an artist as well. to arrive in the places when you are called upon to step into it, and to educate, to reach out, to have the hard conversations, you know, and to be like, no, that's not the right thing, but this is another thing that we can do, you know, doing this, saying this, feeling this, you know, and from a place of always giving, like I give my voice, you know, the same, in the same way. So yeah, it's a tricky time.
Right, and I think what you say is very, very true. It's people might approach you not necessarily for the best reasons,
Mm-hmm.
or they might be a little awkward, and they know they have to do something to do it, and that's probably where you can actually set the record straight and
Right.
kind of tell them, listen, you're trying to do something. Let me rephrase this. You know,
Exactly.
are you always able to do this?
You know, Maestro, interesting. Yes, I am. And I'm just feel like I'm having the conversations that I've always had already. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this show that I created on Facebook called Kiki Conversations. I don't know if you know, it's the same show as like this. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been doing it since March, and it's been very successful, and it's gotten me notoriety in a way that people see me outside of just being a singer, you know, and doing these interviews, and my network of people that I've been able to have come and just sit and do this thing and just have the real conversations. It's been tremendous. I mean, it's opened up. I'm now artistic advising for Portland Opera now.
Mm-hmm.
I was offered another artistic position in Canada for some, you know, I can't talk about that, but it hasn't been announced yet. But like, in all the panels and all of
Mm-hmm.
yes, and all of the things that I've been able
So
to be a part
right,
of.
what's the reaction that annoys you the most in all of this? If
Is that I feel like people who've known I've been here, they didn't call me before, knowing that I was a wonderful singer. I mean, I am wonderful at what I do, and you know, I've
oh,
been able to make a living doing that thing. But now, you know, people that I felt like ignored me now need me. They want me, you know, in a way, to help them. And so that's annoying to me a little bit, but not in a way of where I don't feel like where I'm going to tell people, no, well, you haven't hired me, so no, I'm not going to show up.
right,
No,
right.
never that, because I love my art. I love this art form. You know, I love it so much that I want to go on the other side of the table when I'm finished singing. You know, like I don't think I want to teach voice, but I want to be a change maker. I want to, you know, I feel like that's where my calling is to be the thing that I didn't see. I don't see Black women in administration. I don't, not in Europe, not in America. They just don't, we don't tell people we want to do it, or we're not given the opportunities to do
And
that.
they don't have role models doing this. So then you don't have young ladies who think, oh my God, this is cool. That's what I want to do.
Right. And even in the bigger theaters, like if they're like, you know, there are women in administration in smaller companies, but Francesca Zambello is the only one that runs a house in that way. And she has a summer festival. And so, you know, and this leads me into mentorship, Maestro. You
Mhm.
know, if we don't have people that see those things and go, she's a leader, he's a leader, and tap, like I listened to the interview that you did with Ian, and I've known Ian for many years because of Santa Fe, whatever. You have to see people and they have to pour into you, right? In a way
Mhm.
that is proactive. So talk about that. Tell me about that, like mentorship and seeing talent in people.
Um, that's a good question. Um, I would say I have had people who really inspired me a lot in my career. Um, Singers or conductors. I mean, I was the assistant of, for many years, of a Greek conductor who was also music director of several institutions with, which I worked in. And definitely, you know, he passed away 20 years ago, but I'm thinking of him a lot, and of his mistakes too, actually, and trying not to reproduce them. Um, Singers who have inspired me. Um, what comes to me as we speak is that these business, this industry of ours, this career we're having, these lives that we try to negotiate, it's very brutal. It's very difficult.
Yes.
And you have when, when you're a young apprentice, when you're in your 20s, when you're an assistant, like I was, you think, I'm going to show them. I have so much in me. I have so much things to share. And then to have that career, you have a few tracks going in your head that way. You have to do a few things. You have to talk to some people. You have to do that. You have to do this. You have to somehow compromise.
Yes.
Time. You have to. Some people are able to remain intact in their love of music, remain intact in their respect they have for their art or for themselves. And for some people, it erodes, erodes, and erodes, and erodes.
Yeah.
And so that the people who have inspired me are the people who always had this kind of first love that is absolutely pure, intense, and non-negotiable for their art. Mm-hmm. And nothing, even this damn difficult career and what we have to do, is going to tarnish this.
Yes.
And so I hope I will never lose this. Now you're talking about mentors.
Yes. Let me just say this before you go into that. I was a kid and I didn't even understand the magnitude of the opera and what it took to do the thing. But I did remember the complete joy that you had when you conducted. And I think there were like 12 performances, whatever it was. It was like every other night, tons of performances. But you would dance and you would move and you had this joy and this lightness. And I just was like, I never forgot that. And I looked for that in conductors. I look for, even if you're doing the piece, the really hard, the really dramatic, but I look for that joy, because then that inspires me,
That's the source. That's our source.
Yeah. I'll go into mentorship. I just wanted to say that.
And I think but you need to have, you say in the opera world, we don't have many women. In the symphonic world, there are women who are general director, a lot of them are actually extremely successful. So I think that's going to change. People from African American community or native Indian or, Mexican or other ethnic, they are not represented enough. And I think we are missing that. We're missing these voices tremendously. And that needs to happen in a way that is, again, natural and that is, but at the same time forceful and really going to present to younger generation figures, oh, okay, there is this person, well, then that's what I want to be, and that's what I want to do. That we go back to also creation. I think nowadays, with all that's happening in our industry, new pieces, probably a good part of them should address those issues.
Yes.
They need to speak to our time. It cannot be in a bubble. And staging should address some of those issues. So that's where it's tricky, because you know what? I mean, your political opinion, my political opinion should not matter.
Yes.
I'm not voting in the US. If I were to vote, I know from who I would vote. I know from whom I would not vote. But that opinion should not really matter. On the other hand, you cannot be a major opera company in a city without being part of the conversation of that city.
Yes.
And you need to provide a forum for people to exchange fundamental ideas on what it means to be together, what it means to be human, what's the risk there. And that has political implications.
Yes.
You cannot Diet Coke everything. So, so
I'm stealing that.
That is tricky, because I really mean this. I mean, it's just you know, I mean, a lot of my friends are Democrats. A lot of my very good friends are Republicans too. This is not what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the human essence expressed by the arts and
Yes.
how we live together next to each other or against each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's where art has something to do. And our job as programmer is to facilitate those conversations, this conversation, including in what is not obvious in this
Yes.
conversation. So, you know, my opinion, your opinion, we probably agree on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going to touch topics that need to be addressed. And I think we cannot say, oh, I stay away from these controversial issues. Oh, no, 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 I don't want to talk about this. Just putting here an opera next to another that is creating the area where a lot of questions are going to be asked.
Mm-hmm.
Let this question be asked. Let people have a conversation. As long as they don't strangle each other in the lobby, I'm happy. I'm doing my job,
Exactly.
you know? And
Yeah,
that's
they can
that's
go
not
away angry,
yeah,
but
that's not happening enough. That's not
no.
happening enough. And some major opera houses, they are going away from those controversies, and I think they are losing
Mm-hmm.
because then they're irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And the reproach that's made of opera being a museum art and dead might be, you know, appropriate if you don't show how relevant. But all those stories, they are extremely relevant. No,
Yes.
not Fede Figaro. You know, it's these people rebelling against the ancient order and the abuse of men in power or the complicity of some women in the abuse of the men. You
Mm-hmm.
can see it the other way around. It's
Yes.
very, very relevant. Most of our opera are about I love him, I love her, but she loves someone else. Hello, that's happening, isn't it?
It
You know?
certainly is.
And so it's expressed in the most intense way by the
Mhm.
geniuses of our culture.
Yes.
If you don't show how relevant and how true it is, then you're not doing your job as an opera company. And I would say, and that's where it's hard to understand because I do believe in the overall positive humanistic message of
Mm-hmm.
opera and classical music in general. At the same time, it's such a powerful message that you cannot caricature it. It's also talking about the darkness of the human soul.
Yes.
Opera is talking about that. And
Yes.
it's not the other one who has that darkness, that destruction. It's you.
It's you. Yeah.
And you recognize that. But then it's presented in a very elaborate art form. So you can take your distance from it. You can reflect upon it.
Yes.
Our job is to make all those things very relevant. And if there is blood, it needs to be blood.
Needs to be blood. Exactly. And that's why you pay all the money to go to the opera. That's why you keep
Right.
coming back. You know, I mean, I've gotten to do Dead Man Walking several times, and I've seen all of those things. You know, that it is right there. It's the murder, the rape, the the execution at the end, all of the things in between. You
Right.
know, the difficulty that Sister Helen goes like, I've seen all of that, and we have to keep. I mean, listen, Dead Man Walking is 20 years old. We've got to keep telling those stories. So what would you love? What would you love to conduct that's new? What story would you like to coming
I
back?
don't know. We are actually trying to find the relevant story. I think that what's happening now, you know, question of racial divide,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Especially in a place like Dallas, a city like Dallas.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, brutality of the authorities,
Mm.
questions that touch to injustice in immigration, that kind of things. I think
Yes.
it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
avoid a conversation about this. So I think, you know, we could have. We are going to co-produce. We have co-produced the Girls of the Golden West
Yes.
with
Yes. San
Francisco
Francisco.
Opera. So I think that's an opera that addressing some of those issues actually in a very smart way. not in a, again, not in a political way, but
Mhm.
in really understanding of the human dimension of this.
Yes.
And so we're very happy to do this. We have other projects there.
Of course.
But I think they need to be absolutely relevant to our times. They
Yes.
absolutely need to be relevant to our times.
Absolutely. Well, Maestro, it has been so great. I can't wait till we can sit together.
Yes. And maybe sing together. I mean, you sing. I don't.
Yes, I sing. Well, yeah, I don't want your job at all.
Yeah.
But no, let's make music together very, very soon.
I would love to. It's great to see you, and thank you for stepping in for us and for David in this. It's a great joy to have you, and we're going to survive all of this, and we will be stronger and better
Yes.
after this whole nightmare of virus and other things.
Exact. We are. I feel it. And I want to come to Prague. So if it's not
Please,
Dallas, please invite me to Prague. Yes. Okay, Maestro, I'll talk to you soon now. Bye.